I'm fine. These are two very simple words that we say every day without actually thinking about what they mean. But what if I told you they were two of the most dangerous words used by people every day to hide unbearable pain? I'm fine with the last two words that I heard from my good friend Dwayne the night that he took his own life. The ripple effect that Dwayne's suicide had on an entire community was life-changing for me. And I realised that for a lot of people, the mantra, I'm fine, masks insurmountable pain. For men, more so. We're socialised to think it's weak to show vulnerability. We're told to suck it up and to get over it. Many men struggle with this burden that accompanies masculinity, but rarely know how to speak about it, which makes it very, very dangerous. Dwayne was the poster boy for masculinity. He was strong, he was courageous, he was tough, he was dominant. He just liked appearing weak. In fact, Dwayne would hide his vulnerabilities at every cost. Ultimately, his own life. From the outside looking in, Dwayne had it all. But he perfected the art of smiling depression while hiding what he was truly going through beneath the surface. And because of this facade, no one on the outside had the opportunity to intervene. I remember very clearly speaking with Dwayne the night that he took his own life, and the last thing that he said to me was, I'm fine, with a great big smile on his face. I'll never forget that moment. He reassured me life was great, and from that moment onwards, it was promising and bright. That was the last time that I saw Dwayne in living form. And in hindsight, the warning signs were evident that night. But I didn't have the foresight to see them because I wasn't man enough to be vulnerable myself. Perhaps, if I'd opened up and listened properly myself, maybe I could have disarmed Dwayne about how he was feeling. And maybe the outcome could have been different. You see, being comfortable with vulnerability gives power to others to be vulnerable too. It creates a connection, a kind of trust that's felt instantly, which allows someone else to be able to open up and share with you on a deeper level. So when someone asks, how are you doing? Of course you're not going to be open, honest and vulnerable if you don't feel comfortable. Why would you if you don't feel heard or if you don't feel safe? A perfect example. In 2016, I was very lucky to have been cast in Australian Survivor. And for those of you who don't know what that is, I had no idea either. Now, a long story short, I was thrown on an island deep in the Samoan jungle. And I soon realised what the game was about. A lot of manipulation, a lot of deception, a lot of lies. And so I naturally started to hide how I was really feeling. I had a hard time trusting people. I feared for my safety in the game. So I started to recluse. I could never be open and never be honest and fully transparent because I wasn't comfortable and I wasn't safe. You see, that was just a game. People feel this way every single day of their lives while I'm standing here. It's becoming increasingly evident that being a man's man might just be the most dangerous thing that a man can be. Michael Ian Black, a regular writer for the New York Times, says that too many young boys are being trapped in an outdated model of masculinity, and it is toxic. So without us properly understanding the impacts of toxic masculinity on mental health, we cannot begin to have these important and potentially life-saving conversations with those people in our lives who are struggling. I don't take I'm fine for an answer anymore. Dwayne's death was a wake-up moment for me. And it was there that I realised that the conversation needed to change. I'm an ex-finance guy turned actor and social entrepreneur for mental health. Dwayne's suicide death inspired me to co-found the mental health charity in Australia called Livin', which we've recently just brought to the States so that we can help more people and break the stigmas around mental health. You know, I'm not a mental health professional by any means. I'm just a student of life. I've experienced firsthand the devastating impacts that suicide has had on an entire community, which completely derailed me. And it derails a lot of people. And this story isn't too dissimilar to what I hear on a daily basis. So instead of having the small talk and dancing around the conversations, we need to start changing the conversations that we're having. Because according to Mental Health America, 4 times as many men than women are dying by their own 2 hands every single year. And when it comes to seeking help for a mental health problem, men are less likely to speak up and seek help because of social stigmas. This has to change. We need to change the narrative around male masculinity. Speaking about it is the first step because it ain't weak to speak. If we have enough of the right conversations here early on, we can potentially eliminate many of the conversations that are happening down here before it is too late. We need to make a societal change so that when all of our times are up, our children's children can live free of the burden that accompanies masculinity. Tim Winton, who has written volumes on his observations of the cultures of men and boys in Australia, argues that misogyny, like racism, is one of the greatest engines of intergenerational trauma. And for a lot of people, and like Dwayne, the pain and the burden can outweigh their will to live. And so departing this life seems their only option. I'll provide you with the 5 keys to living that anyone can take so that they can have a conversation with someone in their life who might be struggling in silence as a strategy for preventing suicide. Number 1, we need to start the dialogue earlier. We're not talking to our boys. We're not teaching them emotions and feelings. We're still talking about materialism and everything that's on the surface. We aren't diving deep enough. And if we eventually do, it's too little and it's too late. We need to start having conversations around emotions, vulnerability at a young age, so it's etched into someone's mind as they grow up and develop. Ask your son how they're doing at a certain challenge at school. Use safe language. Be open. Show vulnerability. It gives them power to be open as well. We need to be better understanding and managing our young people's emotions without forgetting how they really feel. Number 2 is we need to change the language to the dialogue altogether. Instead of saying things like, harden up, or why don't you just get over it, or man up. A classic that I hear often is, why don't you just snap out of it? Why don't you just snap out of it? Because I didn't already think of that. These are all very unhelpful, and they're not going to make someone feel open and comfortable to be able to share with you on a deeper level. So we really need to change that. We need to change a young person's mind as they develop and as they grow up. Number 3, the third key, is we need to have the conversations with the right people. Far too often we're caught in the wrong circles, speaking with the wrong people that don't make us feel heard, and they don't make us feel safe. They don't make us feel comfortable. We need to find the places and the people that make us feel nurtured and feel comfortable so that we can take that leap and take that vulnerability step to open up. And we all have the power to do that. So as people and as individuals, we need to be safe first and foremost so that someone else can feel safe with us as well. So I'm going to challenge each and every one of you. How are you going to become the safest person to speak to so that someone else can open up and connect with you on a deeper level? Key number 4. We need to have the conversations outside of ourselves. We spend far too long in our own heads speaking to ourselves than we speak to anybody else. Remember, it ain't weak to speak. Speaking up and seeking help is a sign of strength, not a weakness. Now, I want to say this. If someone does take that leap and does open up to you on a deeper level, sometimes the most important thing that you can do is listen. Listening could be the difference between potentially saving someone's life and never seeing them again. My fifth and final key is listening. I look back on the night that Dwayne took his own life and I ask myself this. Was I listening? Was I listening on a deeper level to what Dwayne was saying? Probably not. Why? Because I wasn't giving myself the option to be vulnerable myself. I'll never forget that. I can't go back in time and rewrite that part of my life. But what I can do is I can teach every single person through the mistakes that I've made. Macho Man Sam kicked in that night and started to give advice, started to problem solve. And I missed the very thing that Dwayne was seeking, and that was just to be heard. Some of the best advice that I have received in my life thus far, it was from a friend of mine who is also a psychologist. He said, Sam, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you speak, because oftentimes when you do, people will tell you what they want. I've never forgotten that advice, and it served me very well in my life today. We need to start listening to people's hearts. So how are you going to change the dialogue? How does that change the next conversation that you have with your spouse, your son, or your loved one? Don't take on fine for a feeling anymore, because it's no longer an acceptable answer to a question. We need to be diving deeper. We need to break the burden of masculinity. Being rich enough, having the best job, being the sole provider, or carrying the entire weight of your family on your back is not the solution. We need to start sharing our emotions. We need to start helping people live. We need to pick people up when they're falling. We need to listen instead of trying to solve all the problems. And we need to become the safest people possible so that when someone needs us most, we're there. So all that stuff that you've been carrying on your back for so long, get rid of it. Shed it. Throw it all away. To ensure that our fathers, our brothers, our sons, and our friends stop dying prematurely, we need to deeply rethink what being a man is all about. It is time to reframe the dialogue. A man speaks his emotions. A man is allowed to be vulnerable and ask for help. A man does not judge another man, and a man is what's going to save lives and break this cycle for the generations to come. So instead of saying, I'm fine, it's time to start living. Because at the end of the day, it ain't weak to speak. Thank you.